Hey Virgo, welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your new moon astrology forecast. We're going to be looking at the new moon in Pisces that is on March 2nd, 2022, and the general theme leading up to the full moon in your sign, Virgo. So this is you in Pisces. This is a very important time for you. So we're going to spend some time looking at the new moon, all of the connections that are being made at this time, and just the general theme as we move towards the full moon, which is going to be on the 18th of March, 28 degrees, 27 to 28 degrees Virgo. So it's really all about who you are in your relationships, either your interpersonal relationships, your marriage, any kind of business contract, but any binding agreement, even if it's you and your relationship with society in general. It really represents the seventh house, which is where the new moon is for you, Virgo, where in your or who you are in relation to other. And this is where the new moon is stimulating this development and this growth, and with Jupiter involved as well, and Neptune in this area. This is a really good opportunity to align yourself with a vision, with a symbol, with a representative and an example of who you want to be in this relationship, whatever this relationship is. And in particular, as an avatar of some sort, as some sort of avatar of compassion and beneficence and a sense of valor, right? These are all these Piscean themes where you're really giving of yourself. And the Virgo person, they do allow themselves this opportunity when they come into relationship. It's like all of the mechanisms that the Virgo person knows about how to like just kind of be really holding it down and knowing how to manage the world around them and manage themselves, manage their own resources, and kind of take control of a situation, and very masterful of the self. It's like in relationship, it brings out the dreamy, artistic, imaginative, and very fluid aspect of working with duality to the point where you don't even realize that there is, right? It's the experience of surrender, and the Virgo person can surrender entirely into relationship. And this is where this full moon, or this new moon in particular, and its relationships to Black Moon Lilith, as we're going to talk about, and with Jupiter involved, and the galactic avatar degree, and the connection to Sirius, and even Lyra to a certain extent. Right? These are starseed positions here. This is a great time, Virgo, to identify who you want to be in this social relationship. And it's when we get to the full moon in your sign that how you feel about yourself, your sensitivity to your own subjective experience is going to be very bright and illuminated, because that is directly related to who you are in your relationships, and the quality of your relationships is a big part of the seventh house. It's not so much the relationship, but the form, the actual form of the relationship. Is it balanced? Is it aesthetically pleasing? Is it peaceful? Does it have harmony? Is it just? Is it fair? Right? These are all very Libra themes, and so it's very easy to in certain ways, either hold ourselves back or give ourselves entirely when the boundaries are very, very loose. But the thing about the Virgo person is that you are, in fact, the master at this. And so it's the next step for you, really. And as you can see, even in the chart itself, where it's all going, right? We are slowly but surely moving out of the area of the chart that has to do with you as an individual, and the primary focus is who you are in a social context. So soon, I mean, not like real soon, but you're going to see Mercury is going to move into the seventh house in right at the time of the full moon, and the mental capacity is going to really have a lot more fun in your relationships. There's going to be a lot more learning, a lot more perception about who you are in your relationships. There's going to be a lot more conversation, I feel like, with those people, a lot more communication with the relationship, and just a mental interaction. very dreamy, very imaginative, very feeling oriented, a lot of emotion, right? A lot of expression of forgiveness, maybe with Mercury and Pisces, but it's coming into this area. And what we're going to find here is that Venus and Mars are part of this conversation. They're coming out of their fifth house on the 5th, actually, where they'll be in a conjunction with 0 degrees Aquarius. And so they've been, and Pluto, have been going through a very intense, powerful time in the area of where your joy and your passion and your optimism is, right? Who you are. And there's been a lot of destruction in this area. There's also been a lot of power in this area too. So it really depends, Virgo, on what you've been doing with it. But it's Venus and Mars now that are allowing us to have much more of a direct relationship with these what has been destroyed. They're kind of like assessing and developing a plan for what's coming next. And in this area, the 5th house, they're really closing out these stories, and so is Pluto in terms of who you are and your authentic voice, because it's really establishing that gives you the energy to really start bringing it into a form, which is where Mercury and Saturn are conjunct at this new moon, right? It's really it's really giving you the mental authority and the mental groundedness and anchoredness, and a sense of real discipline in terms of your everyday habits and activities, and the process of utilizing your resources, the process of practicing, training, purifying yourself, reconstituting yourself. It's the daily grind of the in and out. And what are you doing with that energy? Are you putting it towards service and service to others, and to mastering yourself as a being worthy of service? Or are you grinding it out for someone else? And maybe Mercury meeting Saturn is just like, whoa, I have to do something about this before it destroys me, or it's already made some sort of damage, and this is damage control in this area. So 6th house is a healing crisis oftentimes comes in the 6th house. But I would say with Venus and Mars coming into it as well very soon, you're going to find that it's you've had a lot of strong representation and a very strong and firm and steady hand here in this area, Virgo, which of course is, your house. It's the 6th house. And so there's been a lot of support and a lot of backup here in terms of getting these routines in place, or getting this routine or the practice or the disciplines brought into your life, or the healing process, right? Because that is where the rubber meets the road of the individual, is the 6th house. And it's a house that you're familiar with, Virgo. So there's things happening in terms of the daily activities and the hidden enemies and the healing process that is about to be harnessed and brought into these relationships. And I think when Venus and Mars come into this area as well, and travel through Aquarius, and this is when they're going to start splitting apart, is because they've been traveling together since their first conjunction here in the 5th house. This was very, I could feel like this was a very activating energy creatively for you, Virgo, or a sense of like really shining, or really finding yourself, and specifically like really a balancing of accounts in some ways that was directly related to Neptune, actually. So in your 7th house. So again, it's about your own, if your voice is not strong and powerful and you are not shining brightly, it has an impact on everything after it in the process. So that's been going through its overhaul anyway. But it's really now about who you are in your relationship, because Virgo people are holding that avatar energy, and it is a Christ avatar energy, and it's in the relationship in general that brings it out. So there's a strong Mary Magdalene. And even if you're male or masculine identified, I mean, it's still part of the picture. But this has a lot more to do with the Christ avatar in general, and relationships bringing that aspect out in you. So what's Black Moon Lilith doing? Well, she is in conjunction with Sirius over here in your 11th house, right? Of the actual social community that you are part of, or you realize yourself within, right? And this now can stretch to a global scale down to, your community or your social networks, your social media networks and communities, or your literal community, your neighborhood, the people that go to your local grocery store, or your church, right? Like the people in the church and what it represents and what it makes up energetically. This is all the 11th house. And so Lilith here as this position of depth, of void, of stillness, of darkness, something deeper than even just ourselves, something primal, something that connects us to the nature of what is. And demands to be heard, right, is the most powerful. Without this space, there is no creation, is there, right? And for the Virgo person to have her conjunct Sirius in this 11th house, it's like, don't, it's a emotionally stabilizing aspect. It's like what you discover in the social environment or in the larger networks as a whole of the people and the energy of it. It's like tapping into something that is very, very much about the power of the social collective, and that there actually is, at least for the Virgo person, for your 11th house to be Cancer. I feel like that you realize how much the social environment functions as a umbrella for you, or the vessel in which to hold your vulnerability. And it's in the recognition of that I think allows for you to give yourself fully to your relationships, knowing that if we all did that, it would be the vessel that holds us and allows us to have deep sensitivity and bond with each other. So there's something very deep here that wants to be seen, to be heard within you, Virgo, that's about the social collective in general, and maybe digging a little deeper, or opening a channel within yourself for an expression that you often don't allow through about the collective. Maybe you are just tapping into this part of the collective in general. And this is Sirius, the star Sirius. So this is strong implication in terms of the Sirian star seeds and the Sirian beings and what that signature is. And it's something very deep for you, and it's stabilizing emotionally so that you are even more free and more diffused into your relationships, because you know what they are capable of creating in a whole context when we each are approaching things in this way. Very, very powerful. Very emotionally powerful. Wow. And Uranus is part of this picture, because this is also where the North Node is for you, Virgo, in 9th house, belief systems. This is religions, philosophies, bigger picture, understanding, wisdom is the 9th house. And this comes about by higher education and advanced training. This comes about by foreign travel, mystical travel, exotic types of scenarios, because it's when we broaden our base like that and see the big picture that we come to understanding or gain some measure of wisdom. So for the Virgo person, not only is the North Node here in this area showing that our soul's evolution is really for you in the area of your belief systems and the understanding of it all, but also the fact that Uranus is here has been triggering like really rapid changes and very rapid changes and shifting in those belief systems. And there's something about the glitching here that we all have been going through that has allowed an opening for the Virgo person into another reality, and the fact that there are multiple realities, and as much as fixed reality seems fixed, and as much as we want to think that we can't window shop reality, I feel like we really can. And the Virgo person, I think, has been doing a really awesome job. And part of that is because, again, you have Saturn in Aquarius now, which is your sixth house, and Uranus rules Aquarius. I think that it's been difficult, but boy, it has been, the Virgo person has been traveling some really new networks, right? Like the threads of the narrative are at a bandwidth that is, I think, is outside of the normal realm of experience for many Virgos, and they're just so um, gracefully doing it. And the North Node here, especially in conjunction with the Pleiades still in this area, shows that this is the area of your evolution at a soul level, like this area of really understanding and the meaning of it and the process of understanding, right? What does alchemy mean? What does transmutation actually mean? What does it mean to bring opposites together and turn something into something else, right? Something plain into something precious. What does that mean? And like, how does that create meaning? What is that process? And there is, by living through the experience of an upheaval in this realm, you realize how impermanent it actually really is at a maybe at a spiritual level. Surely, in terms of the material realm, we still live in third density here, but the ability for the Virgo person to really travel, like astral travel through this opening of awareness through Uranus being the trigger has been substantial. And this is also a sextile with the sun, with this whole new moon. So it's when you step into this process of making a choice, having an intention about, this is the symbol I want to either embody, or this is the avatar I want to inhabit in some ways, to embody in my relationships. It's like, as soon as you decide on that, it immediately, like Uranus, like immediately takes you there in terms of the meaning, right? It's like stepping through a stargate in some ways, or stepping through, or doing some sort of shamanic journey, or some sort of mystical travel that allows the Virgo person the ability to access maybe a whole new belief system, right? Or maybe to transcend into this role, feeling comfortable, because there's been so much upheaval in belief system that you actually are able to invest that lack of stability into gaining an even more committed perspective about who you are, right? If that makes sense. Like, the meaning is only based on our relationships and the energy that we create with each other. These patterns are based on our power together, and that is changing, but it's also the very essence of alchemy and transmutation, which is what you're also learning. But being able to manage it at a master level is what the Virgo person is doing, and it's like, it's having an impact on the entire process, or the entire system of, like, who am I in my relationships? I think this is incredible. Wow. As this part of this new moon. So if we go forward to the first real challenge to this, which is going to be the moon in Gemini in your 10th house of your public life, your professional life, your career, you see that Lilith is now moved back in her retrograde to this area. So this is going to be extra potent with the moon and Lilith so close to each other at the moon squaring the sun. Sorry, I want to make sure that I'm close enough so you see the aspect lines clearly. So here's our moon. It's already had a conjunction with Jupiter. Wow, talk about like just becoming a symbol of the optimism in your relationships, right? Oh my gosh, like you were shining, so you will be shining so bright in your relationships, and it really just like there's no boundary here. It is infinite, and what you present is optimism and shining and confidence, and oh wow, this is, I feel like this will be one of those moments where you're like, oh, this is what I'm going for. Just remember that that's in a square. Right after that, within just a matter of days, it'll be in a square to the moon, and how you actually feel. And how you actually feel is not going to be just how you feel anymore, but it's going to be how you feel in conjunction with your public life, right? And so this can mean any number of things: your career, your public persona, your professional role, where you release your power, also the geopolitical social order that you're part of, the institutional structures of any organization that you are part of, the larger extended family, for instance, or just the family in general as a structure of an institution. These are all 10th house things. And when you have the moon here, you're feeling into not just yours, but everybody involved in that structure. And with Black Moon Lilith, it's going to be even more powerful. It's going to be pulling into this, I feel like, into this space. You're really feeling into the all of the possibilities of the socio-political structure, into the institutions, what you can contribute to, like your mission. And I feel like that you will be really drawn into this, like very deeply, feeling very sensitive to it. And the sun's still over here in the 7th house, of like, okay, well, you have to wait until the right people are here. And you have to have trust that you've set intention about your growth in relationships, that when the right time comes, everybody that needs to comes, everybody sits down at the table together at the right time, and you trust that. That's the surrender part. It's going to be a very powerful, very drawing in, very it's something that you're going to be feeling very deeply into, that has to do with the organizations and institutions that you are part of, and seeing all the potential within them, and really wanting to actually do something or feel the need to move back out into some sort of public sphere or space. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying that you will feel the tension with the sun, which is your identity, which is your sustainment, which is who you express yourself as, is really going to be pulling you back into, hey, the table is set, and when it's time to eat, we'll all eat, in terms of relationships. So you're going to feel like, you're feeling into some sort of urgency or some sense of like, look at all this potential, but you don't want to jump the gun. And I think this square is just going to remind you of that, Virgo. So then when we get to the actual full moon, let's see where everything has landed. So here's St. Patrick's Day. That's pretty interesting. Connection. But here is the day of the full moon. And so let's go back a couple hours so you can actually see here the full experience of the full moon for you, because there's some other things happening too that are part of the conversation for everybody. So here is the moon in your first house, right? 28 degrees of Virgo, right? This is about how you feel about yourself, your sensitivity. Oftentimes I've noticed that when the moon is coming through your first house, whatever your sign, there tends to be some sort of reflection back to you, or you have a reflection within your own self, like an emotional reflection, or you are having a really strong like mother connection to your identity, or something to that effect. But for you, Virgo, what I see is, by the time this full moon comes, you're going to you have a real strong sense of how you feel about yourself in opposition to who you're expressing yourself in your relationships. Is it going to be congruent? There'll definitely be tension for sure at this point, but can your very sense of self and how you feel about it, and how you feel about what you will inevitably need to do, which is to pull yourself in and seize power over your own identity, so that you don't lose yourself in this experience, because you, in your relationships, in the context of your interpersonal relationships or your contractual relationships, right? Anything that has to do with form, your contract with society, you are going to be like this prism, and the light's going to come out of you, shooting out of you in every wavelength imaginable. And what it's going to do, to you as a person, and how you will respond to that situation is really going to be a big part of this full moon. How you feel about yourself, and how you feel about yourself having to utilize your willpower to seize power over yourself emotionally while this is happening. Now, you can see that a lot of stuff is happening in this, just in this one moment in time. You see that Neptune, also in the 7th house in Pisces, right? Your opposition is in a favorable connection to the nodes, still in the Pleiadian territory. This is about becoming, being able to very realistically and be very sensitive to not just your own needs, but your dharma. And so you're being very, your own needs, but also your dharma. Like I said, sorry, I have to put a timer on now for myself. So, and I know a lot of people do that. So it's a good tool. The dharma about who you are, which means accepting your limitations as well as playing to your strengths. That way you can centralize your energy amidst a small, a group of people that is also doing the same thing. This is going to, I think, really release a lot of expectation you have about yourself and really propel you into evolving in terms of a new belief system, right? And if you do nothing with this information, if you just come into awareness of it, but you don't act on it, right? When you see like what your dharma is, you have to be realistic about who you are in your relationships and what types of relationships and if you can handle them, right? And what it does for you. If you do nothing with that, you will certainly get the mind will still be very penetrating, just in general, right? Your mind will still be able to see exactly into the social context, and the power dynamics are going to become very obvious to the Virgo person, which is not surprising. But remember that this is the area of your own mind that is the south node. We want to move towards the north node. So when you come into an awareness of your dharma, right, and what your role in your relationships is at a transcendental level, and choose to centralize that so you can really maximize it, you can invest that into new belief systems, higher education, advanced training, a broader perspective, and some sort of mystical or even physical foreign journey, right? And I would say at a soul level, really foreign journey. Having Uranus in the 9th house just in general is really setting up the individual for massive, really huge religious conversion. And with Neptune involved as well in terms of this, I do see the possibility for like a real awakening, it really has like a very strong, like, Christ-oriented awakening or conversion in some ways. I'm not suggesting that the Virgo person is going to, have a come to Jesus moment, but maybe that could very well be, but it will require that you actually invest this awareness. If you don't, it'll be more of like, oh, I can see through everything with the penetrating power of my mind, which is just as useful. But we know that the direction of your evolution is much more in understanding and wisdom, right? And this is the direction that you can really release your limitation and move into very easily at this full moon, right? I think the thing that's going to be very powerful is, how much about your sensitivity to yourself, how you feel about yourself, and your feeling body as a Virgo, how it's going to hold all of this really powerful energy coming through and being, refracted in some ways. So what else is happening? I know we had the timer, but I feel like we didn't cover all of this. Oh yeah, Pluto is also in a sextile at the same time to the sun. While this is happening as well, it means it's in a trine to the Virgo moon. And this is, again, this is what is being let go of and destroyed and for, set up for metamorphosis and rebirth in terms of your authentic voice. That's a part of yourself that you can actually just let go of. And I feel like that how you feel about yourself and your sensitivity to your own changes and your ability to manage yourself, I think is directly related to the power you can extract from this process in your own creativity, in your own voice, right? I mean, this is a very powerful moment of emotional realization of one's power. And this is coming from your, like I said, your own voice, your own authentic expression. And again, it's in a sextile to the sun. So this power is also part of an investment into, it's the beam of light that is coming through the prism of your very expression, your voice, and then spreading out. Wow. That's incredible. Virgo. I knew that it was like, Virgos have been through it, dude. And I knew that it was coming to a point where there was going to be a really important reason for that. And as you can see, I mean, things are going to start moving into exclusively the top of the chart for a little while. And it's going to be about you coming out and being in the fray. And as a Virgo master of oneself, this is exactly who we want out there. Can you handle what it's going to take, though, right? Emotionally, about yourself, that you have to kind of like step in and be like, bring that Virgo willpower to like seize power over of yourself and seize power over, any of these situations in that have to do with you and how you feel about yourself. And yeah, Pluto seems to be a big part of the story for everyone, but for you, it's in terms of what is really transforming at a creative level and in terms of your own authentic voice. I think that's been really, really changing for you. And so let it go. It's going to help. It's going to help give you the resources and the energy and the power to actually seize it in order to come to a sense of subjective self, right? Your own self. Whatever this is, maybe you've had to let go of certain things that you found really enjoyable or that gave you a thrill, but have also actually been really working against you. So that's another way to think about it. So Virgo, I'm going to let it go because I've gone way over my timer. So if you're interested in a reading or if you're interested in energy work to support your process, you can follow any of the links in the description box below. There is a free astrology summit that is for the 5th through the 10th with 30 speakers, and it's all free. So you can just register at the link, and I will see you on the next video, Virgo, which will be your full moon. So these videos are going to be moving to subscriber base only by that time. So I will probably still put Virgos up as my offering in a public setting, just because it'll be your full moon and it's going to be, a very important time for you. But this whole cycle for you in Pisces, really into the essence of who you are and how incredibly powerful you really are in terms of mastering yourself and the material world. You truly are like the wizard. So, and we need you right now more than ever. So Virgo, thank you so much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next video.